Dr. Olaf.
All right. Hey, happy Friday to Team Edwards. So today you got me, you got Chief, and then you got Olaf on our hot seat on the right side here answering questions as people text them in. Again, if you could bring up the text banner there for everybody, that way you know which way to send in your calls. Just to kind of lay the summary here, because we're going to try and do a little better about just kind of letting you know what we want to talk about. One, I'm going to give you a couple of updates in terms of some big events that are happening here, especially today as we roll into the Halloween holiday. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'll tell you a little bit about some of the other events that happened this week and some things that the base residents need to be aware of. And then we'll have a quick discussion about this installation command directive that rolled out this week with respect to civilian vaccination. So we'll just kind of talk through that, and that way we clear up any confusion. And then we'll open it up for questions. And then we'll see where things go. And we're happy to take questions. Again, the text number for questions is down below. So let's start with some good happy news, some good fun things. So we're rolling into the start of our holiday season here at Edwards. And so Halloween is the first one up on the docket. And for the next, so yesterday we had a spectacularly fun and cool trunk or treat event that we did for our Hearts Apart. They renamed it Haunts Apart. And Chief Cebulski, Sergeant Cebulski did a really spectacular job helping to organize. We had security forces out there that was doing a lot of the decorations. We had our ambulance drivers that were there. They brought out 2 trucks, and then we had EOD was out there as well. And then we had a number of residents that brought out and really decorated their cars. And it was fun watching all the kids bounce around all the different cars and to get candy. That was good for everyone's soul, I think. So again, hats off to Sergeant Cebulski and everyone that helped him, all the volunteers that came out to make that event just really, really cool. And here's the great news. If you missed last night, you still have time for all the things that are going to happen today. I'm counting 4, right? No less than 4 different events that all kick off here, starting about 4:30 today and going up to 7 p.m. So in no particular order, here's what we got going. So the Med Group is doing a haunted house event up on the hillside on their Med Group campus. That starts at 4:30, goes off to 7 p.m. So parents, bring the kids by for that. You can roll from that right into Fall Fest, which is over at Club Miroc tonight. There's going to be a haunted house in Club Miroc as well. We've got another trunk or treat event that they're doing there for the kids as well. So that'll be a good time. And then we got another trunk or treat that's happening down at the commissary. So again, you can kind of hop from event to event to event. Let the kids dress up a little bit, have a good time, hang out with your neighbors, and just really enjoy yourselves a little bit. So all that's going on today, right? So that's happening right now. Tomorrow, so on Saturday, the 30th of October, that is our base trick-or-treat event. And so in that scenario, again, we're on the weekends. Retirees are absolutely welcome to join us there for the Saturday event and bring kids on if you'd like. And that's going to be at the 6 p.m. starts. And all the neighborhoods are going to be up. It's going to be a good time. It's going to be a blast. Safe place, fun place, whole 9 yards. I've done these for a number of years here at Edwards, and every time it's actually a lot of fun. So those are 2 big things that we got kicking off here. We're not officially doing any trick-or-treat on 31 October, so don't come out for that date. Our trick-or-treat event is on 30 October, which is a Saturday, so it's not going to be the Sunday. It's going to be the Saturday. So let me pause there, introduce Chief for a second, and see if you got anything else to add, and then I got a couple other things to go through.
No, sir, I think you hit on all of the events that are getting ready to kick off. So like you said, yesterday was a blast. I'm looking forward to tonight and Saturday to see how all of that plays out for the kids.
Yep. So again, it's going to be a blast. It was an absolute riot last night. It was a fun time. So by all means, I'm really looking forward to these events as well. Thanks again. Hats off to all the folks that put a lot of effort into putting those all together. So that's probably the first thing off the docket. Second thing is this week we celebrated National Disability Week. It was also another great time. Chief was out with them. It's the Triumph Foundation that come out and they help do a lot of these events for folks on the base. And so we really enjoyed having them here. Thanks again to Andrew, the organizer and the guy that runs Triumph Foundation. Yesterday they did a stride and strut, and then today we got a chance to go do wheelchair rugby. So they let me play with them for a little bit and out there on the court, in the chair trying to get rugby. That is a hellacious workout. So that was a lot of fun. Again, thanks, and thanks again for involving base personnel in that, and thanks again for that cause. That's such a worthwhile cause. Really, really good stuff. Chief, any kind of thoughts from what you got a chance to see with them yesterday?
Well, I definitely made a quick phone call to have my husband come over to join me for the Stride and Strut. And along the way, they had like little trivia questions about different disability type things. And you had a quiz at the end. They had refreshments. It was really good. And it was the perfect weather for it. So I was glad I had an opportunity to get over there.
Yep, yeah. I mean, this is one of the things I really enjoy about serving in the military is just getting a chance to see a lot of different perspectives and serve with different people and really learn and to engage and have a lot of fun. It was just a blast. It was absolutely cool to get a chance to go do wheelchair rugby. So again, thanks for letting me play with y'all. Thanks for coming up here. Thanks for supporting the troops and being a part of our family up here at Edwards for that. So good stuff. Okay, next piece is for the people in base housing. So we talked a little bit about this last week, and so now we're at the point where you should start receiving emails from Corvius. Not from Corvius, You'll receive the housing survey from our military housing office. And essentially what we're asking is, hey, Edwards is our community. So what can we do to help and bring capability that people actually want to see here in their own housing communities? I'm not kidding. We got about $12 million that we want to spend. And we want to make sure it's spent in the most appropriate way with which to get the communities up to the level that we expect for living here. So the only way that I really know how to do that, the best way to direct how best we reinvest those $12 million is if we get your feedback. And kind of like what we were saying last week, I'm not kidding. I read every single solitary piece of feedback that we receive back. And then that triggers a discussion between our military housing office and Corvius about how best to go after the things that you guys have asked for. Last year, the inputs that we received made a big difference for some of the things that we could roll out this year. Things like opening up the pool a little bit earlier in the year, so that way it's available for residents, and then keeping it open for as late as possible into the fall so that people could have a place with which to go. That was a suggestion, right? We got a lot of suggestions about landscaping and things that we can do for playgrounds. So for all those reasons, it's just another reminder to you that you should start receiving messages to the email that you signed up for when you got a Corvius home. And in that, there's a special code. It only works for your household. And you click on that, and then you just fill out the survey. Give us honest feedback, right? Good things, bad things, the whole 9 yards. We definitely want to hear that because we're definitely interested in making 93523 the best zip code that there is. And again, it's what we can do for our communities there. Chief, anything else on that?
No, sir.
Okay. The last thing I wanted to give before delving a little bit into the COVID vaccine for civilians is the one app to rule them all. So we had a rollout on 15 October, so a little bit ago. We've already seen people start adopting this. We had a very, very brief power failure on the base, and so we use that as a method with which to start communicating over the one app to rule them all. It is a spectacularly good app, even beyond hey, when's the commissary open? Can I see what the hours are? Where these things are at? It's cool, right? And so you get that, but then you also, like for instance, I was receiving alert notifications about what job postings were available on the base. You'll see different events, right, that are pushed out via public affairs so that you have up-to-date information in terms of what's going on the base so that you can go out and be a part of that. So we should be long past the era where, hey, I got to be on this Facebook group in order to know something, or if I'm not on this email, I didn't see it, or I don't look at my website when I mean, if you've got a smartphone, a smart device of any type, and whether or not you use Android or you use Apple, this app works on them all, and it's a way with which to just have one-stop shop. Anything you ever wanted to know about the base is all sitting on there. So again, kudos to our PA team and Mac for really working on that. But it's working really well, and we encourage you to download that because that's going to be your spot to get anything you ever wanted to know about Edwards Air Force Base, all in one spot. Any experiences on the app so far, Chief, or anything that you've seen as well?
So actually, yes, I've been working with the PA team. They've been doing a great job working with them to try to make a space on there for command chief type initiatives, events, things that are going to be going on, and so I've been kind of like promoting this quality of life document, if you will, with the first sergeants, the chiefs, and airmen around the base. And I just wanted to make a space on that app so that we could just make sure that the updates go there and people are not having to search for them and they're not getting buried in an email.
Yep.
And so that'll be one thing. Another thing that we talked about was the book club that we're going to be launching next week. So we're going to create a space on the app for the book club and, you know, kind of get a blog or whatever going, a forum where people can actually talk about the book and like put their inputs in and that sort of thing. So that's kind of been like the closest experience I've had with it, but there's a lot of goodness on there. I always, for whatever reason, I can never remember what time something's closing, so I have to go, you know, check out what Subway's closing, when Panda's closing, or whatever it is. So it's been really, really useful for me.
Yeah, I've enjoyed that aspect of it. I'm like Chief. I mean, again, my third assignment here at Edwards, you know, I've been here for a year and a half. I still couldn't tell you when things are open and closed, but I don't have to do that anymore because I have an app, right? There's an app for that. So for all those reasons, good stuff all the way around. And then, you know, kind of in keeping with that, DoorDash is now open for use. And so, you know, again, use that service. Right now, it's tagged mainly to the restaurants that we have on base, so places like Taco Bell or Subway or et cetera. But in the future, as this thing kind of expands up, you should see that expand out a little bit more and more. So again, we're pushing, we're trying to bring capability out to try to modernize things, to make quality of life much, much better here. So use it, right? And then the more you use it, the better it becomes because we get that feedback. The joy with the one app to rule them all is that we own that. And so if we need to change things or if you see a better way to do things, we can actually fix that on the fly. So all good stuff all the way around. Thanks for putting that up again. Okay, got it. Chief, any other kind of big topics before we kind of get to the civilian COVID vax or anything else you wanted to cover?
No, sir, not really. There's been some guidance kind of floating around about, you know, military members who have refused the vaccine and being able to separate or retire in lieu of that. And so that information is out there. So please get with the first sergeants or the chiefs to get, you know, more details on that. But there's huge FAQ, question and answer type of deal that's circulating. And just if there are any other questions or clarification needed, please get with your leadership for that.
And then correct me if I'm wrong, but broadly, that only applies for airmen that are already eligible to retire or separate. Is that true?
So initially, that was what we thought, and based on what I've seen today, kind of circulating, I think that it is just another option that's kind of miscellaneous to the guidance that had been put out previously.
Okay. So again, get with your supervisor, your shirt, and kind of step through that a little bit. Again, the guidance is continuously evolving as we kind of get through this. Again, this is an unprecedented thing for all of us. And so, you know, as we learn, we'll be sure to share the best information that we have available. So, okay. All right. Let me go through, while we're kind of on that topic, is just kind of step through very briefly kind of what this feels like. And then when people have questions or so, again, text them in the 707-412-8922. And Olaf, who's off camera here, he'll definitely read them for you. Okay, so very broadly, at the very top level, just so that people kind of understand what's going on with the recent guidance that was posted here and distributed to the force here at Edwards on Wednesday. We now finally have the ability for the employee, the government civilian employee, to make an election of what they are. Like, we're in a position now where we can, you know, get status of vaccination. And so there's a form in there. It's a digital form. It's on a website called Mill Connect. And when you go there, it will take you to a form 3175. So you got to log in with your CAC-enabled card. Log in, go to 3175. Believe it or not, it takes just a couple of seconds with which to fill out what you are stating about your vaccination status. So either you're fully vaccinated, you're partially vaccinated on the way to getting fully vaccinated, you're not vaccinated, or you're going to seek a religious or a medical exemption. To date, we still do not have guidance specific about the process for how someone receives a religious or a medical. But what we have now for the first time is the ability for the employee to raise their hand and go, I'm going to elect to go down that road. And so what we've asked for the entire civilian force, and we don't have a lot of time, unfortunately, is that by 5 November, that all civilian employees need to go in and make that status known, right? If you're fully vaccinated, check the box, and then kind of go. It's pretty straightforward, right, in terms of what status you're declaring. And oh, by the way, if you're interested in a religious or a medical, at least making that known, right, that when that process finally gets rolled out, that you are going to go down that process. What we've asked is, we try to keep it as simple as possible, is just to say, hey, do an email, signed email, or an MFR that goes to your supervisor that essentially states something to the effect of, I am I'm letting my supervisor know that my intent is to proceed down the pathway for a religious or a medical exemption. And whenever that process is known, we will start down that process. We just don't have it just quite yet. So broadly, that's kind of what it means from the standpoint of the civilian employee. From the standpoint of the supervisor, you're going to receive all of this information from the employees that you supervise. And if the employee has made the statement that they are fully vaccinated, then the ask in there is to be able to verify that you've seen the card. And there are instructions in there about how to actually prove and verify that someone's vaccination status. And so really what's going to end up happening here by about the 5th of November is that we should probably for the first time get a good sense as to where we are as a base with respect to our civilian vaccination status, and then the next steps that come forward out of there. Very, very important point. In the guidance, you'll see that it states this, but if the member requests and is seeking a religious accommodation or a medical exemption, because I know there's a lot of angst and confusion across the force, not just Edwards Air Force Base on this. But the intent is we must let that process go to its natural completion. And even at the end of that, if for whatever reason that request ultimately gets denied, there's still, I think it's 2 weeks that shows in the guidance there, where the employee has time with which to kind of think about what they want to go do next. But during that entire process, all the way through, there's supposed to be no disciplinary actions taken, against the employee. We have to let the process complete to its natural completion. And so, to the earlier guidance that General Higer was putting up about speed, urgency, compassion, you'll see that reflected now in the guidance that's kind of coming out. Essentially, to kind of wrap everything up there, essentially this is the first point in this whole process in which the employees now get a chance to kind of explain or talk about what it is that their plans are, whether or not they're fully vaccinated or not. We need that data for sake of kind of what's the next step for the base in terms of implementing the rest of the guidance that we expect to come down, but we still don't have fully set up just quite yet. So essentially, all that we're asking at this stage is that the employee and the supervisor document that so that we finally have good data in terms of where our civilian force is. And if you want to get a religious or a medical exemption, if that's your intention and you want to go down that pathway, then we're asking for a signed email or an MFR to your supervisor that just makes your intention known. Because again, we still don't have any way with which to tell you how that process is going to go. So I'll pause there. Chief, anything to add on that or just something that you've seen?
No, sir.
Okay, got it. The last thing I'll leave you here before we kind of open it up for questions and see what's come down with Olaf is, again, I'm not at liberty to say specifically what senior leaders, but suffice to say that our senior leaders completely and totally get this and are advocating and fighting on our behalf every day to be able to get the best guidance that we can get rolled out to the force. I can appreciate people's frustration. I can appreciate people's confusion. Totally get it. I understand it. Just understand also that even though some of that word might not get out to you, I get a chance to sit in on meetings in which some very, very senior leaders that we have are 100% advocating and pushing and fighting to get the best guidance that we can roll out. It's top of mind, and personally, I think they're doing a spectacular job. It's just, again, this is an unprecedented thing for all of the federal workforce, and so we're working through it as best that we can. Okay, so I'll stop there, but just trying to give folks just a quick heads up as to what it was, and then Olaf, we'll open it up a little bit earlier for questions. And hey, Colonel Westy joined us. Hey, Colonel Westy, how you doing today? So actually, let me pause for a second. Colonel Westy, apologize, you did a stealth entry. Exceptionally good, man. You're getting really, really good at this. Colonel Westy, anything you wanted to add from just overall health standpoint in terms of what we're seeing from the pandemic?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. I was actually, the Med Group's kind of having a pause day today to be able to do some Airmen for Life, and so we were out on the golf course. So if you haven't gone to the golf course here in Edwards, please get out there. It's a beautiful course, and they do a really good job out there. As far as COVID for the pandemic, and we are definitely seeing the Delta surge starting to decrease, but the numbers obviously are still high, and so we are still having positive cases every single day. So the risk is still definitely there. Which is why the mask wearing and everything is still important. And I am going to still say that the vaccine is the best defense, and we continue to get really good information about the COVID vaccines that are available and how effective they are and really how safe they are. So if anyone still has been debating but decided, hey, I'm going to go ahead and get the vaccine, that is offered at the Med Group. We have Pfizer still at the Med Group. You can walk in for it whenever we're open, or you can go onto the DHA appointment portal to make an appointment. We're actually giving out COVID vaccine and also flu vaccine at the same place to active duty. But the COVID vaccine is available for basically anyone that can come onto base. Flu vaccine is available for all active duty and beneficiaries. So you can actually make an appointment through the DHA appointment portal to get both, and you can do that at the same time as well. So you can get COVID and your flu vaccine. If you choose to get a Moderna vaccine or you choose to get a Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which, by the way, if you get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, you will still be considered fully vaccinated if you get it through November 8th. That is readily available in the community. So to find a vaccine place off base, you can go to vaccines.gov, or you can text your zip code to GetVax, so GETVAX. If you text your zip code to that to GetVax, and they'll give you a list of vaccine places in the community. And the vaccines.gov will also give you what brands may be available in the community as well. So typically, like I think Rite Aid has like Johnson & Johnson. So there's a lot of different places that are giving that out. But definitely the vaccine has, again, been very effective. The last numbers I saw, about 6 to 8 times less likely to get COVID if you're vaccinated. Greater than 11 times less likely to be hospitalized and passing away if you are vaccinated. So very effective, continue to be very safe. Even at this point, no data has been shown for it to have any increased adverse events with any of the vaccines that are available right now. So again, please encourage you to really look at the information and and really think about getting the vaccine as well. The good news is that the pediatric vaccine from Pfizer probably will get approved. It got FDA approved for use, and so the CDC and ACIP is going to meet this week, November 2nd and 3rd, to discuss approval for the Pfizer pediatric vaccine. We've already pre-ordered it at the Med Group, so once it gets approved, we probably will be able to start distributing that also for pediatrics, so 5 to 11 years of age. We will hopefully be able to have some advertisement about that and be ready to go for any parents who want their children vaccinated with the Pfizer vaccine. So that's really exciting news, because that just continues to help with the immunity, herd immunity, and community immunity, and trying to get us through this continued pandemic. Unfortunately, we are hearing reports, especially from the UK, of a variant from the Delta, mutation from the Delta, that is even more transmissible than Delta, so that we are starting to see that in the UK. So, and this is how the pandemic's gone. We have the surge. That surge is about 2 months. It kind of goes down, and then another mutation happens, and we have another surge that goes about 2 months. So even though we're coming down from this surge, it does not mean that this is over. And the more people we can get vaccinated for that best defense, the less likely we'll have continued surges and obviously less likely for people getting COVID. So really think about this as the long-term haul. With those continued mutations and continued pandemic, this may go on for another year or two. So that's why that vaccine is really important, because that's really, again, our best defense through this pandemic, so we can get rid of the mask wearing, be able to open things up, and be able to do more things. So, the more people that get vaccinated, really it is better for all of us. And vaccines have been proven since 1798, since smallpox vaccine kind of came about. Vaccines have been really proven as a preventive health tool to prevent people from getting sick, not only for the death and the hospitalization, but really long-term outcomes from long-term consequences from COVID. we really don't know the long-term consequences from an infection. So even though you may do okay from an infection, there may be long-term things that come down the line, especially with neurological and memory issues, Alzheimer's that may come through. So those are really the concerns of long-term consequences from infection. So it is always better to prevent infections than to get infected. So I'll just put that out there. I do get a lot of questions, well, what if I had COVID? Why do I need to get the vaccine? It is really because the vaccine gives you a broader protection of immunity, and it'll help you fight the next variants that come through, the next mutations that come through. And that really is, we know that that's a standardized dose. Kind of like if you took a medication, you know that's a standardized dose, versus if you took a vitamin, you really don't know how that's going to get processed in your body because that's not really looked at by the FDA. So, you know, the vaccine is a standardized dose that you know what you're going to get. If you get COVID, you really don't know what your immunity really is. You don't really know what that true status is. That's why all these kind of vaccine mandates coming down is saying that the antibody test isn't even if you had COVID, you still need to get the vaccine. And that really is because the science and the data is really behind that. So again, encourage you to get vaccinated if you haven't. There's plenty of places to get that. Even though we're coming down from this Delta surge as a nation, there's more surges that will definitely be coming, especially through the flu season. So another note, if you haven't had your flu vaccine, please do get it. We are starting to see a lot of different viral respiratory infections starting to come through and that are getting people sick. So definitely get your flu vaccine, get your COVID vaccine, just get yourself protected for this winter season. That's all I had to.
Got it, man. Hey, thanks, Colonel Westy. Thanks again for joining us, and sorry we had to pull you from the golf course. So thanks for joining us here today, just for any questions that come in. All right, so we're about 26 minutes into it, and what do you got?
All right, sir. So Halloween is upon us.
Yep.
And super looking forward to all the, the costumes and, the superheroes, princesses that are going to be running around.
Mm-hmm.
Sergeant Creech will be running the pumpkin patrol tomorrow. So if any trick-or-treaters feel like they wandered a little too far or potentially had gotten lost, they can find a defender with a beret, a traffic vest, and a flashlight.
Yeah.
And they'll be able to help them locate where they're supposed to go. And for any Paw Patrol fans out there, Chase is going to be out and about. So if you want to get a picture, a high five, or a high paw, with Chase, then by all means, they'll be out there as well.
Yeah, again, much thanks to our defenders. Again, you'll see them kind of walking around. Some will be, on foot patrol, others, driving around, whatever. But it's kind of one of the nice advantages, if you will, of doing trick or treat on a base is, never ever been a concern anywhere I've ever been on a military base in terms of safety for the kids and the fact that people are there just to have a good time, right? And things don't get out of control. So, but that happens mainly for sake of the fact that we've got spectacular defenders that help put that all together and to help keep us all safe so that we can just enjoy ourselves. So again, thanks to our 412 security forces for being a part of that. Okay.
Absolutely, and they plan on being out there from 17:30 to 20:30.
Got it.
So they'll be out there for a good bit of time.
Spectacular.
Another question that had come in was how likely would it be for us to install EV charging infrastructure here on base for folks that have electric vehicles?
So I'm only laughing with you because we literally just got done having this discussion with some of our senior leaders coming in from AAFES. Chief, did you want to provide kind of your inputs on there? And then, because I've been yapping for a little bit, I don't want to dominate, but you got any thoughts or inputs on that?
So that was going to be our request to, it has been our request to AAFES, and we were waiting for them to, take first stab at it before we go off and try to get other vendors to help us with that effort. But it turns out AAFES is actually looking into that. And so that's something that has been on their radar. They've gotten several requests about that. And so it won't be tomorrow, but in the near future, they're hoping to be able to roll that out. And they're going to start out with a few test bases. And we're hoping to be able to get on their list, maybe not right away, but at some point to kind of test that effort out. But
yep. Yeah, so still very early discussions about how to actually do that. And oh, by the way, you're speaking to a man that's owned 2 electric vehicles in his life. So I totally get why that's necessary, especially for a lot of our guys that are commuting long distance. Coming in, it'd be nice if you had a spot where you could plug in your EV and be able to get those Trons before you turn around and go back home at the end of the day. One thing, as we go through this process, one piece that they did ask of us is we don't really know how many folks on the base actually drive EVs. Or the other kind of flip question would be, hey, if we had charging infrastructure on the base, how many of y'all would actually go get a EV? So again, we're early stages on this, just quite yet, but expect at some point down the process here, you might see a question go out, might even be on the one app to rule them all, about, hey, we're just trying to get some good data to be able to support this decision, because those charging stations are not cheap to go in. And then when they're there, then it becomes a question about utilization rate. But we hear you loud and clear, totally get it. I can see why people are asking that. You know, the rest of the planet's kind of modernizing this way in terms of EVs are the future and charging infrastructure. And just know that not only your military leadership, but also your AAFES leadership is tracking that request and wants to work to engage to see what we can do to make that come true. I just can't point to a specific deadline or when our first charging station will arrive. It's very, very early talks at this point.
Yeah, another point that they brought up was, in addition to when we do the survey or the poll of how many people have the car or vehicle, how many people would go get one, and then where does that person work, so that we can kind of figure out where we would start our installments or installation for those charging stations. So
yeah, you bet. I mean, yeah, Edwards, you know, one of our great things is we're a big base. One of the down things is we're a big base. And so if we put a charging structure someplace along the way, we got to make sure it's properly positioned to service the most amount of people. Because even if there is a charging infrastructure on base, but it's located, you know, somewhere on main base, the south base guys aren't going to park their car and then try to figure out a way to go down to south base. Or even on main base, right? There's some spots where, hey, if it's down in Hangar 1600, does that mean, you know, the JOT or the F-35 or the Raptor guys are going to use it? Again, it's not in their parking lots. So lots of things to kind of go through, but understand that it's already been raised. And this is one of the things that came up, you know, even on our military leadership kind of, you know, talks about, hey, what can we do to improve quality of life? And the EV charging infrastructure was one of them. Totally get it. Cool. What other questions come in, Olaf?
Kind of more of a lighthearted question,
Yeah.
Halloween related.
Yeah.
What are you guys planning on dressing up as for Halloween?
That's a secret. Yeah, I dress whatever my wife tells me to dress, but yeah, that's a secret. So you'll have to stop by my house, and you know, we'll hand out some candy, and you get a chance to see what we actually get a chance to do.
maybe we'll post pictures after the fact. But yes, I don't want to reveal right now.
Good stuff. Cool. What else you got?
For right now, that's all we have, sir.
Okay, great. So again, our text message is 707-412-8922. We'll have the phone lines up for a little bit while longer. If you have a question, this is why we do these town halls routinely, but just to be able to roll out guidance and information, and everything is fair game. Our intent is to be accessible and to be as transparent as we possibly can. A couple other things while we're kind of holding to see if any additional questions come in. So we received the memo from the Deputy Secretary of Defense, which is a counter-COVID directive to be able to try to limit the spread of COVID. And so the DepSecDef has directed that events over 50 people, we need to get special permission for that. We need to ask the Secretary of the Air Force in writing beforehand to go do. And so for that reason, you know, we got that memo about the middle of October or so. We spent about a good week kind of going back and forth with different leaders about what does it mean, how do we interpret this, is there a way to still conduct a lot of these events but live within the spirit of what the SecDef has asked us to go do. And at the end of the day, we couldn't figure out a way with which to go do it, and that the only real correct answer was to cancel the Department of the Air Force ball. So we were going to have that on 6 November, so that was going to be next Saturday over in Hangar 1600. But unfortunately, we needed to cancel it based on recent guidance that we've received from our higher-ups. And so for that reason, above all, the thing I really wanted to relay to the folks on the line is I am sorry. You know, I wish there was another way that this could have went down. I know a lot of people put some really good effort into that from our planning community, and I want to thank them directly. saying, hey, really well done. We'll keep that plan that they had built because it was a great one, and we'll just have to Rolex that until the following year, and hope that we've got some updated, better guidance going out from there. But I needed to make sure that that word went wide and far, so that if you had already purchased tickets, we put instructions for how to request a refund, and that part will be taken care of. I've heard no problems in terms of people getting their money back, so no issues on there. But again, it's just another offshoot of kind of what's going on with COVID right now, and kind of the after effects, the second and third order effects is we're just unable to hold the ball and still comply with what DepSecDef has ordered us to go do. So again, my apologies for that, for everyone that's out there that was really looking forward to that event. I was, my family was. It was going to be a good time, but we'll have to try to do something else, eventually once the guidance changes, to be able to go out and take care of those sorts of things. So I'll pause there. Chief, anything else to add on that, or Colonel Westy, anything else that you've seen on your side as well?
I would just say that, along those same lines, the holiday party question always comes up. And so as of now, we're still kind of planning accordingly, but, we'll have to figure out the proper mitigations for those to actually be executable.
Yep. Yeah, we've already asked some of the questions up, and we've been communicating with some of the other bases in the AFMC portfolio, because they're, again, this is a Department of Defense-wide directive, so it's not like it's directed at just the Air Force. I know the Marine Corps, for instance, they had to cancel their ball, and if you've ever been to a Marine Corps ball, oh boy, right? That's a big deal for the Marines. So they canceled their marathon, right? The Marine Corps marathon they were going to do this weekend, and they also canceled the ball. And so you're seeing this kind of across the entire force. Really, what our directive, and to kind of amplify what Chief was talking about, is again, guidance continuously evolves and it changes. Usually we get that and we take a little bit of time to digest it, so that we're trying to be as clear as we possibly can with the force. And so right now, what we've asked for units that are planning some type of event like that as we get into Thanksgiving and the Christmas, keep planning, right? Don't stop. Keep going forward. And the only thing we've asked is, to the max extent possible, try to avoid irreversible costs, things that you can't get reimbursed for in the event that we have guidance that changes and we need to cancel. But the last thing I want to see happen is we give up. And we don't plan these things, then all of a sudden we get a new directive that comes down and it allows for these sorts of things to happen, or it delegates authority down to the installation to be able to make choices on that. So keep going, don't stop. And as we get more guidance, we will be the absolute first to tell you. Okay, Colonel Westy, anything else that you've seen on that, or?
No, sir. Just a reminder to use those that SMARTS acronym. If you can keep physical distancing, all those kind of mitigation layers is always very good to have in your planning stages, so you can kind of plan for that. The mask wear, the having air, so maybe having an outdoor celebration, and again, encouraging vaccination. But those are all different layers of mitigation that always will work during this pandemic. So just things to consider for that.
Yep, you bet. Okay. Olaf, any other questions come in?
No, sir.
Okay, fair enough. So we'll keep the lines open for another 5 minutes or so, and if it's pretty quiet, we'll go ahead and we'll give folks back some of their time. While we're waiting to see if any other questions come in, one other thing to roll out to everybody is, so next Friday, so that's the 5th of November, General Higer will hold a special town hall. It's going to be over in the base theater. And it will happen during the same time slot. And the goal there is basically to kind of be transparent, upfront, and direct with any questions that might come with respect to the civilian vaccination guidance. We ask just to keep the crowds down. That is only for government civilians or people who supervise civilians. So we're intentionally trying to keep the crowd limited so that we can comply with DepSecDef guidance, but then also provide a way with which there's a face-to-face interaction directly with General Higer for people that have questions or are confused on something. His intent, again, it's difficult sometimes in COVID, and for a lot of people, perhaps your interaction with him is what you see over emails or on the town hall. But this is a chance to kind of have a face-to-face interaction directly with General Higer to be able to answer any questions that kind of come up, because sometimes that's the best forum with which to have a good engagement and a good talk on these sorts of things. And he absolutely wants to provide that. So that will be next Friday. It'll be in the base theater, so the widest indoor venue that we could find. It is only for civilians, so not contractors, not uniformed military directly, unless you are a uniformed military that supervises a civilian. So that way you can also ask questions so that we're able to roll through this time as smoothly as we can. Chief, anything else to add to that?
No, sir.
Okay, got it. All right, awesome. All right, Olaf, anything else come in?
We had a couple questions that just came in.
Please.
Has there been any discussion with senior leaders on assignment incentive pay?
Yeah, there has been. So it is still in the Pentagon. Believe you me when I say that we are continuously tracking that package to be able to see where it's at and to be able to have the engagement go back and forth. I don't have any information I can release at the moment other than to say that we're currently tracking that, still working that. And when we get information, you will be the first one to know, right? Ultimately, if it's ultimately approved or if it's disapproved. But yeah, we hear you. And that's usually like a weekly thing that we're constantly looking at and going, where's it at? Is it approved? Do they have any questions for us? Is there something we can provide forward? So stand by for more on that. I know that's been a long time coming. I know we've been waiting on it. I just don't have anything I can tell you at the moment. Chief, anything else to add? Did I mess that up? Or
No,
right?
sir. I think you're spot on. Like you said, it's a weekly engagement. I'm working with the MAJCOM command chief to see if he can get any information on, whether or not the decision authorities have the information, the complete information that they need to go ahead and make a ruling on that. But we're still kind of standing by.
Yep. I mean, we've had spectacular support from our senior leadership all the way through Air Force MAJCOM, AFMC. So we have a lot of folks kind of pulling for this and trying to see what the status is. There's nothing I know of as of yet that I can kind of release out to let everybody know. Other than that, we are tracking that and keep a very close eye on the status of that AIP package. Okay, what else?
So 11 November is Veterans Day.
Yep.
And some questions had come in. Is that Friday, the 12th, is that a duty day?
Yeah, so it is. So it's not an AFMC family day. It is a training day. So we are not flying on that day, but it is still a duty day unless you take leave and you have the right approvals to be gone from there. So the intent for that is, come in, right? There's a lot of different ground training events that, the units need to go do. But 11 November, it's a little weird this year just because of how it fell on the calendar. 11 November is a Thursday. And then the Friday immediately after that is still a duty day unless you take leave. Okay, what else?
Another question that had come in was, who would be the best person to contact if we want to have small trash bins installed near light posts around housing, if people want to throw their small trash away from their puppies or dogs after walking them?
Got it. Yeah, good question. So in other words, are we talking about, just to get the question correct, are we talking about when you are in the housing areas, or are we talking about when you're like in the major parks that are around? So if they're walking their dog and it's around the park, so did they give any, and if, the person who asked it, if you've got some clarification on that, because the answer will be different, right, depending on what we're talking about.
So the question specifically mentions housing, so I'm assuming the housing area.
Okay, got it. You bet. So the first stop would be, Corvius. So it's a little bit of an interesting relationship there. Some of the things are Corvius and some of the things belong to civil engineering, and it depends specifically where it's at, what you're talking about, where you want it to go. But in all cases, both of those units, either CE or Corvius, will be a good spot, but I'd recommend start with Corvius because the support that we've seen out of them in terms of servicing or helping out requests have been outstanding. So if you talk to Stuart over in our housing office, he can certainly point you in the right direction. And if it doesn't work there, then we can certainly contact civil engineering to ask those types of questions. But my first stop would be Corvius, since you specifically talk about like the houses and housing area kind of things. Okay.
And so you are actually spot on. We got a phone a friend saying reach out to Corvius and Mr. Stuart Campbell.
Yep, yeah, Mr. Stuart Campbell, spectacular guy. If you haven't met him yet, he's the what we call a project owner, the manager that kind of runs the Corvius spot here for Edwards Air Force Base. He's been a spectacular partner with the base in a lot of different things. And so I guarantee you, if you stop into Mojave Sky, send him a message, drop him an email or something like that, he'll absolutely respond, and then we can get you kind of what you're looking for. Okay, what else?
Sir, did you want to bring up anything regarding the school survey?
Yeah, thank you. That's on my list, and I skipped right past it. Thanks, man. Thanks for being good, Olaf. I really appreciate that. School survey. So I believe that's live now, right? Like, in other words, we're going to hand out cards for that, and people can go on there and do their surveys. So similar to the housing survey, you also, again, we get surveyed out, but believe me, these are surveys that you absolutely want to fill out, right? The housing survey helps make the community better. The school survey feeds into a lot of different things. If you're not tracking, when General Higer first arrived, he stood up what's called Crisis Task Force Schools. And in his kind of parlance, it's his priority 0, which is about, hey, what can we do to be a good demanding customer to the Muroc school system, so that now that we have these beautiful, absolutely spectacularly beautiful schools that are either built or are being built and will be opened up here in the next year, the content and the things that go on inside of that school, those are things that we absolutely want to be a good partner and to work directly with Muroc to make all that stuff happen for the community. Again, it's all in the keeping of 93523 as the best zip code in the Air Force. So to be able to do that, as you walk around on Halloween, especially when you come up to Palo Verde, you will see that you will also get a little card that has, hey, here's where you take the survey to talk specifically about your experience so far with the school. We did one last year, very helpful in terms of getting good data so that we can kind of point resources in the right direction. And we're going to do that again this year because it was such a great success last year. And again, we're looking for really direct feedback. And it doesn't have to be all bad. Quite frankly, I mean, some of the things that go well in there, we want to hear about that as well. So that helps arm the base to go have the right discussions with our partners at Muroc to be able to figure out how best to make changes and to help out the folks that go to school on our base. So again, that's a good reminder. Thank you, Olaf, for that. But that's now live. And as you walk around getting Halloween candy, you'll get some cards distributed in terms of how to get after that. And we can also post that link on the one app to rule them all so that people can click on that and go directly to the site to be able to take the school survey. Okay, Chief or Olaf, really, anything else to add on there? Because I know, Olaf, you've done a lot of work with CTF schools as well.
No, sir, nothing to add. And although thank you for the credit, I have to pass the credit to Mrs. Gordon. She was the one that texted that in for us.
So as always, my wife watches this and provides good input. Thanks, honey. I appreciate that. And thanks for the good handoff there. Chief, anything else to add on that?
No, sir, that's pretty much it. I know the cards for sure will be handed out on Palo Verde. I'm not sure of what other streets to get those, but like you said, there will be opportunities to click the QR code in other places.
Yeah.
It's like the app and
I know it's on the Facebook. Edwards or First Base Friends. That's where
Yes,
I saw
ma'am.
it. It's in
I
the
saw it as
CDC
well.
in the annex. So it was a really easy survey to fill out too.
Yep. Yeah, it doesn't take very long. Very, very valuable feedback. Again, this is just my personal editorial, but coming to Edwards, sometimes it's easy to just kind of give up and just go, oh, it's terrible, I can't do anything about it. That's not true at all, right? We care, and for the folks that step up and provide that feedback, you better believe we take action on it. I mean, you have so much ability and so much authority to direct this community in terms of where you want it to go, and we absolutely want to hear that. So please do the housing survey. Please do the school survey. We'd love to hear your feedback. Believe you me, again, we read every bit of that. It's tabulated, and then again, that provides us the right ability to go engage with Muroc, who have been great partners, by the way, to be able to make things happen for our community. We love making that relationship work. So, but it only works, right, if you give us the fuel with which to go do something, which is why the surveys. Anything else, Olaf, come in?
No, sir, not yet.
Okay, got it. So, Chief, any other kind of parting comments or thoughts, or Colonel Westy, anything else as we kind of wrap up the hour here?
I can, just to pass off to, I know I keep talking about the vaccine, sorry, but the boosters are also available. So that was also approved. If it's been 2 months, if you got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and it's been 2 months since then, you can get a booster dose. You can get a booster of Pfizer, Moderna, or another Johnson & Johnson vaccine. For those who received the mRNA vaccine, so Moderna or Pfizer, and it's been 6 months since you got your last dose in the series, so the second dose, you can also get a booster. So you can either get Pfizer, Moderna, or Johnson & Johnson. For those who got the mRNA vaccine, it's for those who are eligible. So if you have a high-risk medical condition, if you are in an occupation that may be high risk, like you have more exposure to people, or if you're in a living situation where maybe a family member has a high-risk medical condition, or you're living in a dorm space or something like that, you can also get a booster vaccine. So that is readily available. We do have, we can give out Pfizer as a booster dose at the Med Group, but also available in the community for the booster dose. It's just something to remember. And then just like some last parting words, the Med Group is right now busy making up our haunted house. So that is open for everybody, I think starting at 4-ish. So please come to the Med Group up at the, where we call the Sim Lab at the main campus. We have a really cool haunted house for all the trick-or-treaters, so please come and visit us. And then another push is for the patient portal. If you need an appointment with your primary care doctor or you have a message for your primary care doctor, please use the patient portal. I use it all the time, and it's really, really easy. People contact you, so you don't have to go through the appointment line, and it's just really easy to use. So again, push for the patient portal if you have any needs from the Med Group, but please come out and see us at the haunted house tonight.
Outstanding. Chief, any parting comments?
Just take care of each other, be safe this weekend, and enjoy it.
Okay, and it looks like one question. Okay, go ahead, Olaf, go ahead.
So not so much a question, just kind of a follow-up to the QR code for the school survey.
Yeah.
I know you kind of mentioned if it's open already. So the survey was open as of the 27th of October, and it's going to be open until 11 November. So Veterans Day at midnight. That's going to be the last time it's going to be open, and after that, it's going to close out. Got
it, man. Olaf crushing it as always, man. Thanks, Olaf. Appreciate the assist, man. All right. Well, hey, we're going to go ahead and wrap up a little bit early today because I'm going to go take care of some work, and then I'm going to go have fun at some of these events that are coming up here for Halloween for trunk or treats and haunted houses. So again, we wanted to thank everyone for joining. I'll give you one last parting programming note, which is so next, kind of like that question that we came up about, is the 12th of November, is that a family day or is that a training day? So it's a training day. But we want to provide the maximum opportunity for our public affairs staff to be able to have their training day as well. And so for that reason, we will not, quote unquote, not have a town hall next Friday. So the 12th of November is gone, right? And we will do, the PA staff